Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Between the Headlines on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Between the Airlines, we're going to be combing through the asset declaration and published statements of President Joseph Newman Boakai and Vice President Jeremiah Koung. We want to know really when they say asset declaration, what is it that we are talking about? What are the elements of an asset declaration form? What is it supposed to reveal? What is the process? And what actually is contained in the asset declaration form that have been published by our two leaders. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. Let me welcome Mr. Gabriel Tabito Carter. He is the host on FOL Marketplace that presents business, economic, finance, and everything in between. Welcome, Gabriel.
Dennis, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Let me also welcome Attorney Wonderr Freeman. He's an attorney, economist, and accountant. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Dennis. It's good to be here and to provide some awareness to our people across the globe.
And we are expecting Mr. Francis K. Zazay. He should be joining us from Monrovia, but hopefully he's going to join us very soon. In any case, we're going to get started because the asset of the two public servants, vice president and president, have been published. What is in it? But let me start by asking, if you have not done so already, please invite a friend, share the show, and let's talk asset declaration. Gabriel, what is asset declaration, and what are we supposed to glean from an asset declaration that's been published?
Yeah, Dennis, thank you. That is a great question, and I'm glad we get to talk about this, and hopefully we can shed some light on this whole asset declaration. So technically, asset by definition is pretty much everything that you own that is in your possession. You know, the declaration piece is just you declaring what you own. Um, but asset itself is technically everything that you owned. Again, I want you guys to pay key attention to this word, own, or from an asset standpoint, or from a money standpoint, something that you've earned. It has to be in your possession. You have put in the labor, whether they're giving it to you now or you defer it. Should be considered part of your asset. But for a short definition, an asset is everything that you own, technically. Yeah. You're muted.
And for you to have that asset, it means you have to take all the debt from in it.
Yeah. So okay. So asset is everything that you own. Now, as for a net worth standpoint, that means you have your assets and you take away the liability, meaning your assets, the stuff that you own, and you subtract what you owed, which are your liabilities. At the end, you get your what we call, net worth. That says how much you are worth from a financial
And
standpoint.
how is that determined? What are the basic elements of that? What are we supposed to look for? What are the things
So,
that are supposed to be contained in an asset declaration schedule or statement, whatever you call that?
all right. So let's go to this. I do this every day from a high net worth standpoint, right? So just as you will see, a company has a balance sheet. Individual have what we call personal balance sheet as well. So if you look on the balance sheet, personal balance sheet, there's cash right at the top, meaning whether it's you keep it in your house or it's in your bank, that's cash. Or the next step below that is called cash or cash equivalent, meaning if it's not cash, something that's equivalent to it, meaning something that is liquid that you can sell within. I will be specific here for your accountants out there, within 12 months or less, right? Cash or cash equivalent. So it could be securities, right? And again, the reason why I wanted you guys to pay attention to the word earn, meaning, let's say hypothetically, you, Dennis or Wonderr, you work, you have a 401k, right? There's a part of that money that you earn that you defer it. You're not taking it, but you defer it. I mean, in the future, you will take it. The fact that you have earned that should go under your what we call below the cash, what's called cash equivalent, right? So it's something that you earn. Below that, you get your what we call fixed income. I mean, fixed assets. Fixed assets could mean vehicles, properties, um, even stuff you do to your house to improve your house. We call it leasehold improvement, right? Those are part of what we call fixed assets. From there, if you have any copyright stuff, let's say you have you copyright your name or you copyright Focus on Liberia, you can attach a value to that and declare that as well as part of your asset. That's called intangible, or in other words, they call it what's the word in accounting? Uh, it's intangible asset. I'll figure out the word later, and it's
Yeah.
that intangible asset. So if you have any um, trademark or anything that is intangible that you cannot see but has value to it, like your name, like if you trademark,
Right. Like my brand.
exactly. If you trademark your brand, you can add value to that and put it at a market value to that and declare that.
Okay.
Below that will actually give you now your total assets, right? From there, you go to your liability. Liabilities meaning stuff you own, stuff you owe. It could be like a line of credit you have at a bank, right? That should be a liability. It could be even a long-term debt, even your mortgage, notes that you have on a car, um, or money that you owe to other people. Those are all liabilities. The assets that you've accumulated total, subtract the liabilities, should now give you your net worth. That's how you determine how much this person is worth. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go to Anthony Freeman. Anthony is wearing 3 or 4 caps tonight, so we'll go to him. Attorney Freeman, so what is the purpose of this asset declaration, this asset and liability, and why do we need it? What does it tell us, and how can we be? Okay, yeah, let me stop there. Why do we need it? And if you want
Because
to add,
you're doubling up the questions.
yeah. Let me make it small.
Because you're wearing three hats, so you need to need to be hot.
There's this general trend toward greater accountability for public officials. So I guess back in the days, people really didn't care about a government official assets. But as you know, there's greater advocacy for transparency and accountability. People want to know what did you own prior to coming to government, who did you owe, how much, and your net worth. Because more often than not, your net worth, you have to sum up your asset and take out your debts from in it. And the difference is what we call net worth. So that is your actual value. But one thing I want to say, to really analyze these kinds of financial forms, you have to either go top bottom. That is, you look at the details of what is in the document, or you take two related documents, like you take a prior asset disclosure of these people, and then compare it with what they are disclosing now. Like, for example, Koung is showing himself to be a multimillionaire. It would have been good to know what he was his worth before coming in government. So if he had disclosed before coming to government what he worth, and now what he worth, we will know that his government service, it has helped him to accrue this, you know. So, but yeah, it's all towards greater accountability, and that's why people are much more interested. But now we are doing it because it's in Liberian law. It is required by law, and so that's what we are doing it.
And who does this cover? Who all in Liberia supposed to be declaring their asset? Is it people in government alone, or?
Yeah. For now, it's people in government and most of the top officials, but mostly, if you read the asset disclosure law, it has to do with anybody who has decision-making power relative to bidding, tender, finance, and those budget, implementation and stuff like that. So if you have a function that borders on those kinds of activities, you are likely to be mandated to declare your asset. For example, even a lot of procurement directors, even though they may not be like high-ranking officials, but because their function borders on procurement, in many instances, they are required to disclose their assets.
Let's go to the law now. So is the law requires that, right? And
Yeah.
why? Who's supposed to check? I mean, why LACC? Is it because of law, or because they can check? Because anytime we hear anti-corruption, we are thinking of, okay, something is going wrong. So why are we reporting these things to anti-corruption instead of any other agency or government entity?
Well, that's a problem. I had the first investigation into asset disclosure in Liberia. I had a cross-departmental team at the time when I worked for LACC. At the time, LACC have exclusive authority over the asset disclosure, both to receive it and to investigate. And we did 2 reports, and those reports caused a stir, and a lot of people were unhappy. And so the government officials from all the branches of government decided they were going to reform the asset disclosure law. So the reform was that, okay, right now we're not even giving it to LACC again. We give it to GAC, and the people in the House will keep theirs, and the people in the judiciary will keep theirs. And anybody you want it, you have to go to court before you can look at it. So when they did that, it kind of watered down the whole asset disclosure thing, because now it was like nobody is in charge. Nobody is responsible to investigate. But the only true value of an asset disclosure is if it can be investigated. It really has no value if people cannot investigate it to find out if what you are saying is truthful, because mind you, they do the disclosure on the oath. So if you put misleading information there, that is an automatic criminal offense. Automatic. If you do it on the oath and you post misleading information there, that is an automatic criminal offense. So, but it's still distributed. I will have to, check the law again. But I think the legislative people, I think they still keep it to themselves. And LSCC is restricted because they don't have a right to just go investigate. They can only investigate if there is a cause or if they, somebody raised an issue or stuff like that. So it's been kind of watered down. What is making it important now is because Boakai raised it as an issue in his campaign and said he was going to do it, especially against the backdrop that we are declined to either enforce the law or to even cooperate or comply with the law in the first instance. So at the time, they were in a political contest. So Boakai wanted to show that what we are is not doing, I can do it, and I can do it better. So in fact, I will disclose my asset, I'll make all my officials disclose their asset and all of that. And so that's why it became very difficult for him when he became president. He started to go back on his statements. People started to remind him of his statements.
Thank you. Gabriel, how can we tell in an asset declaration and publication that what you are reporting is true? How do we determine the value of those things? If you say I own a cow, for instance, and chicken and goats, how can we tell, or a house, how do we know that this house is 400,000 or 800,000 in Liberia? Is it from LRA or how?
So that's another great question. And, I think Wonderr may have, alluded to some of the, the point that I want to make here, right? So if you are declaring an asset and nobody can authenticate it, it becomes, just for the sake of declaring it. That's one point. The other point is that, like the question that you ask, how do we authenticate? How do we declare? Let's say you reported your vehicle on the form. How do I assess the value? Here we have a lot of means to assess the value of what a vehicle or property. We have valuation here. You can do either the city assessed value, or you can do the market value, right? In Liberia, there's only one entity, which is the government, that does assessments on properties. We technically don't have a market valuation that can say, even though the country is assessing this property for 300,000 for tax purposes, I think it's worth 500,000 or 600,000 for market. If I wanted to sell it, this is how much I'll be able to get, right? So in this case, where either the president or the vice president is, declaring his tax, right? You cannot authenticate the value. You cannot evaluate. You cannot put a value on that property, right? For real estate, maybe unless the LRA did evaluate it, you can go to them and say, let's see the value that you place on this property for tax purposes, and you can take that value and use it. But who is, again, it goes back to what Wonderr was saying, who is doing that? Who is in charge of doing that, to say, if you place a value on this property, I can go to LRA and they will be able to give me that valuation that they've attributed to that property for tax purposes, and I will be able to attribute it to what this individual listed on here. Now, if you go to LRA and they have a different value than what these individuals listed on here, again, that's one that said that you've technically lied on the oath. But then again, that individual can come back and say, I did not use the LRA value. I used the market value because I believe if I were to sell this property on the market, to anybody, this is how much I will be able to get for it, right? So there's a fine line to walk there. But the biggest thing here, we don't have a market value. There's only one entity in charge of doing that. Now, as far as for vehicles or, even equipment, I don't think there's we collect taxes on those. I don't think we evaluate those. Like as I said here, if you want to sell a used equipment or a used vehicle, you can go to different entities, different website, and they'll put a value on that based on the mileage or the the year, how old the vehicle is, and you'll be able to get at least a ballpark range of how much it is.
Right.
Unless we are saying that we're going to take those value that you can assess a property here and use that in Liberia, which in that case it shouldn't be a fair assessment because the markets are different
Attorney Freeman, so what are we using in Liberia? Where are those numbers coming from?
Let me give you an interesting situation. Like I said, I headed the first investigation into the disclosure of assets for a government official. So a lady from the Freeport, at the time she was Buchanan Port, but she had a job like she was an inspector. So she would go in to inspect the ships and stuff like that. And I think it required her to say yes and no, something like that. So she brought a disclosure of an asset, was a story building, and she valued it at $15,000 on her form. Now I have a regular, I think, 2-bedroom home that I spent like $35,000 or $40,000 for, or so like that. And you are telling me a story building costs $15,000. So what I did when I was investigating, I called her and asked again what she said was better what she stated about. She said yes. So I said, okay, but then I'm going to get an engineer to assess. And so she recommended an engineer. So when I called the engineer who did the building, and I told him, I said, you are talking to the LACC. If you make an untruthful statement, you could be implicated in fraud. The guy said, look, my brother, let me be very frank with you. That woman lied. That bidding, she told me she was going to the bank. And that's why I said the bidding was worth $15,000, but that bidding of it said it worth well over $65,000. That's what the engineer said. The same engineer who wrote that he assessed it and it was $15,000, said the woman told him she was going to the bank. But if for LACC purpose, then the bidding is actually worth over. So the thing only has worth if somebody is going to pour into it and find out whether these people are saying the truth or not. It has no real value if you are just going to declare for declaring sake. Now,
so right now, what is it? How do we determine the value of these buildings? Is it you ask your own engineer to tell you and then you put it on a form?
Yes, I think that's what they're doing. You can have an appraiser, you can get an architect or engineer, whatever. I guess you're doing self-appraiser. But let's assume you have used the property for a bank loan. You can just take that appraiser and use it. Or maybe you pay taxes on your property. You can also take that valuation and use it. But you are not supposed to just all by yourself write your own figure there, because there's supposed to be a good faith attempt to say the truth. So you must get an architect to appraise your property, or you use what you use to pay your taxes. The value you use to pay taxes, you can use that. Those will be good faith. But I think it would be dishonest and not truthful if you just wrote down your own value. But I know from experience that most of the government officials, sometimes they may attempt to either inflate or deflate. Like, for example, we have one instance with Madam Parker when we did the work at the time, and she had brought a document from the US on mortgage, and it appears to us after investigation that she had inflated it by several $100,000. And when we questioned her, she said she made a mistake. But I mean, without, how can you disclose your asset and inflate it by like several $100,000 and say you made a mistake? So we have those instances. But the most important thing is that somebody has to look into those papers and counter check to know whether people are saying the truth. But right now, as it stands, some of the assets are not in the possession of LACC. I believe the legislature are keeping theirs. I believe the judiciary are keeping theirs. And the LACC, it doesn't seem that they can all by themselves go and check it. They probably have to have a probable cause to investigate all of that. So it's kind of been watered down.
The asset declared by the legislator, they keep it. The asset declared by the executive, it goes to LACC. The asset declared by
like I was telling you, when we had those, we had 2 investigations. And after the investigation, a lot of the people in the executive were not happy. So they decided to reform the law. And when they reformed the law, they took it away from the LACC entirely. And they distributed it to the various agencies. Now,
before I go to Gabriel, is there any penalty for not declaring your asset or for misrepresenting what you own?
No. When the people reform the law, I mean, this is one of the most dishonest things that they do at the national legislature. I would cite the specific provision, but they decided that the legislature will later on, LACC should propose penalty and they will pass it into law.
It should.
How can you pass a law on asset disclosure? Then you say later on, we'll pass the law on penalties. So as it stands, there's no penalty for late filing. There's no penalty for dishonest filing. There is nothing. And the legislator is supposed to pass another law to describe the penalty. I will read a specific section, I will get it and I will read it to you.
Wow.
But there is, you know, if you deflate, like you say, if you deflate your asset or inflate your asset, that is criminal offense, correct? That's misrepresentation. Because you're technically lying on the oath by either inflating a value or deflating a value.
And that's why I don't understand why should there be any new law passed for that? If you lie on the oath, you should go to jail.
Right. I think that's. But I think what he's trying to say, there's no fee, like a penalty fee, in addition to the criminal offense as well.
Yeah, we had that problem because when we first did the investigation, that several years back, some of the people lied on the oath and we published it. Now, I couldn't understand at the time why the LACC would not prosecute it at a minimum for lying on an oath. Even if you're not punished, I mean, you're not, let's say, prosecuted for corruption or whatever, but at a minimum, you could prosecute them for lying on the oath. But the commitment to fighting corruption in Liberia is not there.
So do you have does LACC has the authority?
Let's go to the asset.
Oh, you can prosecute for lying on the oath. They are a prosecutorial organization. They
so how come you guys did not?
That's the thing I'm telling you. That commitment. The first thing when we published those documents, I mean the report, it didn't go down well with the president at the time, Madam Salif. She was somehow offended of some of the people we implicated, and I think whatever they explained to her had more value than what we were explaining to her at the time. So apparently, my bosses at the time decided they were not going to go further with it.
That's the problem.
Thank you. I want us to pick up. I was asking the elements, what's supposed to be in here. So I want to quickly breeze through the asset, the one that was published. This is the president asset. They're asking for employment, name of employer, the rank, date of present appointment, nature of employment. Is it contract? The president says yes. They ask, but
anyway, go
immediate.
Ahead.
I mean, this is the first. I mean, who made this form in the first place?
Thank you. That was the biggest question that I had. But
because
anyway, go ahead.
And I'm looking at the first one. Does the employment have to be appointment? Why they can say date of present employment instead of date of present appointment? What if you are elected, or what if is this a general form or this form just for the government? I want to go through. I want to raise all these issues and then we'll discuss. So that was my first thing I saw.
That form was actually prepared by the LACC.
Okay.
It was prepared by the LACC.
And then they come here. The second one, we'll go through the actual number, but first I want to pinpoint some things. They say income, right? What does income mean? Is it, so I see your income is a gross salary from, because if I'm publishing my asset today, they are asking me what's my income. They are not asking me for what I earn or my wages, tips, and things like that, right? So I was confused by that, and we'll go through. I was confused when they say income, gross salary.
So let me break that down for you, or Dennis. Normally, I just send you a WhatsApp message for the depository from the Code of Conduct.
Let him go through it.
It will go like that. Let's start from here, right?
Yeah.
The first thing is the employment. Name of employer. Say president's office. Position, president. Date of appointment. What appointment?
That form, the way it is wrong.
Right.
Because it's supposed to take the 12-month period before he became president. Not when he became president. Exactly. No. It's going to take because we now operate our calendar year as a fiscal year, January 1st to December 31st. Right. So when you are disclosing, you're supposed to take it from January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. That's what you're supposed to do. So if you did something other than that, it's wrong.
So do people check? I mean, these are common mistakes. I mean,
this is the president. He has all the advisors in the world.
The common mistake that Dennis is even picking up, this is a form that's supposed to be representing the country. Does somebody double check these things? And like, just as Dennis is going over it now, that this could end up in public. Is this something that if it ends up in public, you will be able, you will be able to read it and understand it, or that where they won't have any questions. The fact that we are looking at it and having this question and you are stating that it is wrong, it just shows that we don't do the smaller things or pay attention to the smaller things, that technically supposed to represent the country.
The second question said nature of employment. They have in parentheses, is it contract, is it permanent, is it temporary, etc.
It's a nature, not the term, right?
So what does it even mean, permanent, temporary, contract?
It's just some commentary, additional commentary on the asset disclosure, but actually that one that is declared over there should have covered not from January 16 to January 22nd. No, it should have been from January 1st, 2023 to December 31st. That would be on the income side.
Right.
On the asset side, it's supposed to be as at 31st December 2023, when the fiscal year ended, what asset you had in your possession, what liability, that's what it's supposed to be. So, and this man had all the advisors in the world. So there is no reason for him to submit a form that is either misleading, either unintentionally or intentionally misleading.
I think without even trying to, preempt this whole form as you go through it, I will go as further to tell you that this is not only wrong, but it is done in this way. And I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here. It's done in this way because we don't file personal taxes in Liberia, right? On your personal taxes, if you had your personal tax, it will show you how much you made last year, which is what Wonderr is talking about, right? It will show you how much you made last year. We're supposed to go on the income part of it, right? Where they're asking for the salary and everything else, whether, like you said, the tips and other contracts that you did, that's where they're supposed to show up. But because we do not file personal taxes, so they use this declaration as your personal taxes and your personal balance sheet as well, which is technically, to go further, is wrong within itself, the way they did.
Oh, right. I mean, that's a good point, right? Because this is like personal and your job. And last gross salary per annum is, so the vice president made $350,000 per year.
That information is misleading because the year preceding his declaration, he wasn't vice president. He was an ordinary politician trying to get to power. So that is the income that should have been on that disclosure, not his position, because his position was since 2017.
They asked him date of last appointment. He said government of Liberia. Name of last employer, government of Liberia.
The key thing there is, Dennis, if you are coming to power in 2024, the income that you are supposed to declare should reflect 2023 to December 31st. Your assets supposed to be as at December 31st, 2023. If you did something else, I'm sorry, it's wrong.
Let's go to the income. Here again, what I was saying is income 13,400 USD. I don't know. Can we not assume now that it's USD instead of putting this USD? I couldn't understand it. I said, oh well, maybe I've been away for so long.
So we have dual currency in Liberia. That's why they will have to specify.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then we should only indicate when it is one. But anyway, that's a different story. So income. What is income according for this asset declaration?
So
what does income mean?
So technically here, again, it goes to this point that I made earlier. So this technically is supposed to be our version of the tax return. So technically here it's supposed to mean that this is how much you made in a year last year. Right? You're declaring now, this is how much you made last year, technically. Because if we are looking at, asset declaration, you cannot list a salary that you have not earned as asset. It cannot, unless you earn it, unless you work for it and you earn it. That means you've worked for it and earn it. That's the only time it's supposed to come under your asset, because if you don't own it, you have
this
not earned it.
13,400, what does that represent?
It's supposed to mean that's how much you made last year. It's supposed to be last year. Because it cannot be this year because you have not earned it, and it's support because you have not earned it. This isn't supposed to get on this income.
But why would the LACC put number one gross salary per annum? I mean, on my personal test, they would say wages, those kind of things. But if you say gross salary, so maybe it's the form that is confusing the people.
No, there's nothing there to be confusing, because this form is supposed to come with a list of definitions. So if there's anything that is confusing, you should go to the definition and find out what is it. And secondly, I keep reminding you that Boakai has access to all the best people in the world to advise him. So he has no reason to put something there that shouldn't be there.
So what do you think? Is it 13,400? Is it his salary?
For me, I would take it to mean those three figures mean between January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. That's how much money came to Boakai by virtue of his job, by virtue of his businesses and stuff like that. That's how much money came to him in his possession.
I agree.
Now, when we get to the accountability aspect, that's where I will raise some of the issues that you cannot tell me, because if you add this money, or it comes to 43,000, right? Good.
Yeah.
So if it comes to 43,000, that's it. So if that money comes to 43,000 in that same year, there was a problem in Bon County, and you gave 55 or 58,000. So if you take 43,000 and you feed your family, how much is left over for you to give? Or 55,000 to Bon County, or to get 365,000 to Unity Party? Back in the days, we used to say, when you say 43, take away 55, we say it can't go. Now what we say, 43 take away 55, it can't go. Let me play society where you can have 43,000 coming in, and you can get out 55.
Let me play devil's advocate here.
That's his pension. So
let me play devil's advocate here quickly.
Yeah.
Right. I will quickly, Dennis. Right, to correct the point that Wonderr is making. To be fair to the president, right, he may have given that money from his savings. Right, it could have been money that he's had saved up that was there sitting there before he gave it away. So let's be fair here. You could, just because you give 55,000 and you only reporting 43,000, doesn't mean that he didn't have that 55,000. But I do agree
We'll
with
come
you.
to that. We'll come to that point. I want us to really deal with these. Because I was confused going through that. So,
but is it clearer now? Is it clearer?
Yeah, it's clearer.
Yeah.
Okay, so the total income for that year is the 43,000.
Yes.
And we are about, our assumption is what he earned from January to December 2023.
Yes.
Now it comes to asset. I pray thee tell me what is the difference between cash on hand and cash in the bank.
That's what tells
because
it's wrong.
Cash on hand, what you have in the bank, for me, the accounting that I did, even though I couldn't pass the 003, your liquid asset, right? But in Liberia, is it because the cash you have in your house is the cash on hand, the one in the bank is the cash in the bank?
That's exactly how they divided that on there, and that is wrong. The way you would thought that was correct. That's exactly how it should have been.
Because what happened, the Liberia's financial structure is not advanced. So we don't have like securities, tradable securities and stuff like that. So let's say developed country, you will have your cash, you have tradable securities, which are close to cash and stuff like that. Which sometimes, if you can liquidate in like 3 months, they will classify it as cash. So in the Liberian situation, we don't have that. So cash in Liberia means the money that is in your pocket or to your house. And then cash in bank obviously is why it says.
What Dennis is saying is that the cash in your house and the ones in the bank supposed to mean the same.
But how will LSCC do a form?
Yes, I got him. I'm not saying that we define it that way because we have a financial structure that is not advanced.
No, so but as a result,
which accounting system do we follow? Do we follow the GAAP or do we follow the IFRS?
I think they're moving toward IFRS.
But still, either way, the reporting is supposed to mean the same.
No, but like, why are we using cash on hand to mean money in your pocket? Right. Why would LSCC prepare a form and call it? Because what is in your pocket, what is under your pillow, and what is in your bag, all consider cash on hand? Or is it that because you don't want to, you can't account for that? Or call it something else? Don't call it cash on hand. Because cash on hand.
Well, that's the form that you got to work with it. And like I tell you, we don't have. It's not commonplace to have marketable securities in Liberia, so that is out of our vocabulary. So when we're facing form, we don't normally think about it.
No, so to be fair here, Dennis. To be fair, some of the people that are filling out the form are not as advanced as you.
No, but no, what I mean, the people who wrote it and distinguished cash on hand and cash in the bank, what were they thinking?
That's what I'm saying now, right? They maybe the assumption, and I'm trying to play devil. Maybe the assumption is that those people, some of the people who will be filling out these forms, don't have that advanced knowledge of accounting as you do or as Wonderr does, right? Meaning that if they break it down this way, if you see it and you will know exactly what they mean. Cash on hand literally means the money you have in your hand, in your bank, or
under your pillow,
in the bank.
Right.
Meaning, but technically, to your point, which is correct, it's supposed to mean the same thing. Cash on hand and the one in the bank supposed to mean exactly the same thing. They shouldn't have done this, but I think they may have done it because of they probably assume that those who will be filling out this form do not have that advanced understanding of accounting as well.
Right. Cash in the bank outside Liberia. Real property. Okay, and now personal property. Vehicle, boat, ship, aircraft, machinery, etc. So you have vehicles and cow. What I was thinking, if you can list cow, can you list goat, chicken, sheep?
I'm not sure that listing was appropriate because that would come under a business. So if you had a business, you're supposed to be reporting your share in the business and the value of that share. Or if the business is owned entirely, then you give the value of the business. That's why you should be reporting. But I mean, you don't want to say one chicken way. That's the kind of man we got, so we just gotta accept it.
Do we think that it was Boakai, somebody from his office that filled this thing out? Because this looked very sloppy. Like who will list cow on the on a who lists cow? Cow is not considered an asset.
So I was,
But it could be part of a farm, right? As
No,
the
but-
inventory on a farm.
If you
So if you have a farm,
so
say the business name as a farm, and say your share in the business and the value of your share.
that's exactly what I should.
That's why it's supposed to be reported as.
Right. Not cow. You don't list cow here. Like 16,000 cow. I mean, everybody.
Yeah, but the man wants to show he's a farmer.
Jesus
yeah, because
Christ.
I heard of the farm in Bombing, right? So I don't know where are the cows.
Then you list the value, like Wonderr said, the value of that business as the asset. Not
that's why he's supposed to report over there as asset, not the cow itself.
Cow or how many chicken egg you have in the barns.
Other asset we have. I don't know what these are. Is
that generator? It looks like
FIX
generator.
What?
No, it's not generator. What is that?
Yeah, it could be generator.
Okay, but Dennis, look, this thing is in error. But look, what you're supposed to have, you should have your current assets, and then you have, your long-term assets, break up like that, and then it will have more meaning, So in the long term, that's when you can put the buildings, and then you can put other machinery and stuff like that. You put those together, But like I said, it could be that this thing didn't come with detailed direction as to what he should do. So maybe that's why, or maybe he's just super incompetent. That's the theory I want to believe in more.
But this is vice president of 12 years. For the 12 years, maybe 6 of those years, he was declaring his asset every year. So this
you were probably declaring the same thing because, more or less.
And then we'll come to this interests me, right? On liabilities. Liability is none. The president doesn't owe anything.
I thought he said he lives on loan.
No.
I thought he said he lives on loan.
Yeah, because there should be. Because he said already that he been taking loans. So maybe he paid all the loan off. But if they say other obligation, he says see attack and he put 200,000. So if something is there, I don't know what is it.
So maybe that's what those loans are, right?
Loans and overdrafts, none. Other obligations, see attached. 200.
So what the value of the other obligation? That's why he has that as a 200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that cannot be his net worth.
No, that's not because. Yeah, that's the 201,000. Because up here we have the other assets, and here. So
to be, I think he underreported his assets. And the reason why I'm saying that because if what you guys are saying is true that he owns a farm, the value of that farm should be added on there. Like
I think what I heard about a farm that he had to find and give it to women or something. Maybe that's why.
Right, but
what do you mean? Give it to women? Give it to your wife? Or what do you mean?
No, he gave it to a group of women. I think.
Then the cow should not be on there. Then, if he did give it away,
this cow could be his. Yeah, no, that cow with an S.
Cows, then it doesn't belong on there. If that's the case, then it doesn't belong on there.
That means he gave it to the women, according to you.
Let's look at the VP asset quickly. I mean, that's the same thing. You have the gross salary 240,000. So this 240,000, it appears to me that's the salary of the legislator, of the senator.
I think that was yes. Yeah.
Allowances 24,000.
And also to senators, so that guy is making that the Senate is making like 264,000.
This is anyway. That's a different topic. In Liberia, somebody is making 264,000.
Yeah, that's like $22,000 a month. And they say it's legal. They say it's legal. It's constitutional.
Just like the president, he has his cash on hand, 12,000, and then cash in the bank, Echo Bank, 30,000. No cash outside Liberia. So it's the same form. At least for him, he typed it out. Then later on, he got tired of typing and started writing too.
Yeah. What I used to do when I was investigating these things, I will request for the bank statement. I remember I won't call the minister name. I had one minister come over. I requested for a bank statement. He said, I should be the one to request for it. I said, but how I request for your bank statement? He said, well, I said, okay, fine. But if I don't get the bank statement, I'm going to write the president and tell her that you refuse to cooperate with us.
You cannot.
So
They will
the
not
next
give you the
day,
bank statement unless you have authority. Even if you have authority, no bank should be.
I was investigating under LACC. So I said, you go bring your bank statement. And he said,
Right.
no, I should go for it. I said, no, I can be the one to go for it. So I said, okay, fine. But I'm going to write the president and tell her that you failing to cooperate. So the next day, he brought a bank statement.
Right.
And you can get a lot of information from the bank statement, because by right, if you tell me that your bank balance or your cash in the bank is this amount, and I'm investigating, I want to see the bank statement to see whether the balance in the bank is reflecting as you are reflecting it on your asset disclosure. That's why it's supposed to be.
So for the VP, here are his liabilities, $839,000. Thus giving our VP this net worth of $6.8 million.
So how much is he worth? If you talk, because the liability is almost like $1 million.
6.8.
So
he takes out the liability and he has 6.8.
Yeah, and that is the problem in Liberia. The first thing, see the salary structure. The salary structure should be a function of how much the average civil servant make. You can't take a salary structure out of the clear blue sky. If you work for the government, if the average civil servant maybe make $300 or $400, maybe you make 4 or 5 times that money. So 300 times 4, or let's say 300 times 5, it should be like 1,005. That is how much you'll be making. You can't have an average civil servant making $300, $200, and then you're making $22,000. That is called unconscionable, without conscience. And so some of the questions to ask, how much was this man making? Because check the taxes. What kind of business was he doing? How much was that business making in terms of gross revenue for him to post several $1 million in assets? Okay. So, because we know that for the past maybe 10 years or so, he's been a legislator. Okay. So, but you know that the corruption is so high. If a legislature can spend around $800 million without audit, $800 million since 2006 without audits. So it's not surprising to you that several of them are millionaires. It's obvious. This man was deputy to Thomas Farah under the weird regime. And under the weird regime, because there was no accountability, they were just having party with the Liberian people money. So at the end of the day, he turns out to be a millionaire. He even told us that his hospital, was given to the government. The very hospital that was given to the government now surfaces on his asset disclosure as his property. Now he will do us a favor by publishing the MOU between he and the government, upon which he received a couple $1 million for. Because every year, Center had him in their report that he and some other legislator distributed $3.6 million over a couple of years. Okay, and he said that money went to his hospital. Now we have not seen an MOU, because if he's claiming that if the property is his property, then the only other arrangement under which he could have gotten money from the government is if he had a standing memorandum of understanding with the government, so that we can know. Or else, this is the thing we are saying. People go to the national legislature, instead of using the government revenue for everybody to benefit, they just allocate it to themselves and they become millionaires. And now they use that same money and come during election time and share it around, and people vote for them.
So that is what I don't see here.
It's almost 500,000 for vehicles.
What I don't see here is, isn't he supposed to be a businessman? Why didn't he report any of the businesses? All I see is commercial property, residential properties, and other. I don't see any business reported here.
Yes, you will not see business reported there, because in the US, for example, businesses are easily valued. In the Liberia, businesses are just a front for corrupt money. So you just put a fake structure up, you call it a business, and then you go and lobby with your friends to the national legislature to send bogus contract there, or you set up a hospital and then you go lobby with your friends to send money to the hospital from where you have access to it and use it as you wish. That is why you are not going to see business income, because by right, if you disclose an asset, you're supposed to say business income, or you're supposed to say royalties from this other, enterprise, or dividends from this company. But you will not see it because they don't do proper business. All they do is a front to funnel corrupt money.
Right. And I think because Carl, the president here says see attached. So there are documents that were submitted that we don't have access to. So that kind of limits how we discuss this, because we don't have all the documents, right? Because and I'm saying this to because under C we have liabilities, and this is what the president said. The current president now, this is what he said 2 years in 2021.
That
President Boakai,
I live on loans, go to IB Bank, I borrow money more than 5 times because I want to make sure I have something in my account that I can live by. I mean, the fact of the matter is that I live on loans, go to IB Bank, I borrow money more than 5 times because I want to make sure I have something in my account that I can live by.
All right. The president.
He doesn't only live on loan, he also live on contribution from Stanton Witherspoon. And he didn't include those.
That is not.
You're going off a tangent here. You're going on a tangent here.
He should have said donation from Stanton.
No, this was 2001. Maybe it was not that time. But what I want to point out is, at the time, the president said he was living on loan. And the loan he was living, he said, because I want something to live by. It was not like I'm taking loan to invest, to do something, right?
No.
This was for daily sustenance.
Sustenance.
Right. So and now his asset declaration does not reflect that. Maybe the good reason could be he stopped living on loan by 2022.
2023, campaign money was coming in, and since there's no accountability in Liberia, you could take campaign money, you could use it for yourself. I mean, there's no accountability in the country, so you could take campaign money, you could use it, but by right, it's criminal for you to use money intended for a political campaign to use it on yourself. Okay, and I was raising the issue that you cannot claim to have income of 43,000 and then be donating or 55,000, because the income you're receiving, you and your family have to eat. So how much you and your family ate from the 43,000 before you are able to donate 55,000 in Assembly? And mind you, right after the election, Boakai also donated 365,000 to his Unity Party to celebrate. At that time, he has not yet taken his first salary as a president. So where is 300,000 coming from? Like I said, back in the days, we used to say 43 minus 55, it can't go. But now you have 43 minus 55, it will go. 43 minus 365, it's still going. I mean, what kind of subtraction is that?
A unity party subtraction. Earlier I was playing devil advocate, but the fact that you made this point now, it actually makes sense. As I said earlier, he could have had that money saved up, but the fact that we just played a video where he said he was living on loan, meaning that he was borrowing the funds from the bank to live, meaning that he didn't have anything to live on, right?
No.
I mean, he didn't have anything saved up, right?
No.
So again, that validate your question.
Not even the cow.
No.
Right? That means he didn't have the money to save up.
So
people can, right? So even though I was playing devil advocate, but I think this video just gives it away.
So there are two things happening here. Since he didn't have money, and now he's able to give 365 for the, and also the money to Toto, can we say that's campaign money, probably that.
Oh, most likely is campaign
Yeah, I
money.
think it's campaign money.
Most likely is donation from Stanton Witherspoon. I mean, for Christ's sake, Stanton Witherspoon sold $7 million. So to give somebody 100,000 would be nothing for Stanton.
Yeah, we can make that assumption, and it would be a fair assumption to say that
The vice
that was
president, according to the asset declaration sheet, 240,000 a year for 6 years. That's like 1.4 million. So from the job alone, assuming he was not even eating or paying any bills. I mean, how does that? So after the 6 years, now he's worth 6 million. Were the sources of the money, would that be in some of those attachments that we don't see?
I think it's a fair assumption to make. So again, the reason why I say that, because if you're looking at taxes, whether business taxes or personal taxes, right? There are usually what we call additional statement. Sometimes it can have up to 3, 4, up to 8 statements attached to the business taxes or even the personal taxes. That on those statements, they have like an itemized list of everything else they have total on the top part of the business taxes or personal taxes. So it's fair to make that assumption that on those additional tax forms that they listed on there contains an itemized list of either the businesses or other assets they may, or liability they may have, that we're looking at there that we cannot figure out. But again, this is where the the assessment that we're making kind of falls short, because we don't have those additional attachment.
So overall,
The vice president made a much more detailed disclosure compared to the president, but then there's not everything can go on the asset form. So that's why you will have a situation where if there is somebody responsible to look at these things, then the person will be able to ask for additional information if they find it necessary. That's the whole idea. If somebody is responsible to look at it, then the person would say, okay, we need this information or that. But obviously, the funny thing is, Liberia is a country where people are so satisfied. So immediately Boakai disclosed the asset, it doesn't matter what was in it. People say Boakai that chap, Boakai that baby, Baku the papa strong, the papa disclosed. Even though he disclosed him 43 minus 55 minus 365, but they say Baku the papa strong.
The guy will not leave it 45,000, 55,000.
Because I mean, come on. How do you make an income of 43 and then you give out 55 and then you give out 365? Something is wrong. What kind of subtraction they have these days?
I agree with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, but did he say he was personally giving out the 365?
But that's why it is, because the government had a budget of 650,000 for the program. And that was not the money that was given to Unity Party. Unity Party said the money came from Boakai. So when a Boakai can say, okay, no, it never came from me, it came from the government. But if it is not saying it came from the government, it came from him. What else do we need?
Which is supposed to be transparency, right? In that case, if it came from whatever source, he's supposed to disclose that source. The whole reason why you and I are on here talking about this, because he made that campaign statement that he would declare his assets, which is in line with being quote unquote transparent. So if you have additional income coming in, whether it's from campaign or donation, like you said, maybe from Stanton or any other person, you're supposed to disclose that, hey, I'm taking this money not from my personal, but from donors to give to either the Unity Party to celebrate or this county for whatever purpose. You're supposed to be as transparent as possible in addition to giving that fund. This is why we're even here.
Gabriel,
disclosure supposed to be talking, meaning that you're transparent. So if you're going to be transparent, go the full 9 yard and be as fully transparent. Don't leave people to trying to figure out what you're trying to do, whether you have it or you don't have it, or where it comes from, where it doesn't come from.
So based on what we've seen so far, what needs to happen with this entire asset declaration and publication process? What do we need to do? Because I mean, we saw even mistakes on the form and what they're asking for. So what would be the recommendations?
I will go and maybe Wonderr has an experience in that, so maybe you'll give her a better. But I think personally, and this is a bigger picture item, I think we should start getting to one, not only validating, giving one entity the authority to authenticate or validate or verify the asset that is being disclosed. But on the bigger picture side of things, I think we need to have some way to do taxes, personal taxes, file personal taxes. That way, if you come to me and say I made whatever 55,000 or 43,000 last year, I can say, you know what, go pull up the guy taxes from last year, and it will show everything on there. But you cannot say you made 55,000 or 43,000 last year, and there's no source for me being able to trace that. So again, it goes back to a bigger picture item. I think we need to, hopefully some president will come in and be able to enact a process where we can file personal taxes every year. That way, if people are tracing your income, they have a good source to go to. But I think I will leave it on that.
Gabriel, the filing of assets is under Liberian law, under the revenue law. The only problem is in Liberia, people don't care for those kinds of things, but it's in the revenue law. But I mean, like here in the US, where everybody knows you're going to file it, of course, you can choose not to file it, and maybe the IRS can forget about you. But the day they decide to think about you, you are in big trouble. So, but the problem is, it's in Liberian law, but nobody cares to do it.
So what will be your recommendations? What do we do with this process?
Well, let's say on the short term. On the short term, LACC should revise the form and attach to the form detailed notes and even sample, like fill up some like sample, so people can know what to write and what is needed in the information, and maybe even additional information that they should keep on the standby. So if they want more, they can get it. That's the short term. But in the long term, I think they should pass a law, because mind you, the asset disclosure thing, some section of it is under the Code of Conduct law, and some section of it is under the LACC. And as per the Code of Conduct, I just sent you the stuff on WhatsApp. I don't know if you saw it, but LACC does not have full access to all the disclosures. So they cannot fully investigate. You need one single body that can look at this thing and can investigate. And then the issue of the legislature passing a law to define penalty for late filing, because Boakai was the first to violate by filing late. And then also to make sure that these people will publish the filings, even because the public is the best help when it comes to investigating. When I did that asset disclosure thing, a lot of my information came from the public passing on information to me. There was a minister who brought his building in an incomplete form, whereas the building was in a very loudmouth minister who is currently in his government and in his Boakai government. He had brought an unfinished building to us, saying that his building was incomplete when the building was already finished and on the rent. So if you don't publicize it, the public does not know, then the public will not feed the LACC with information that they can use to investigate. So the legislature need to pass a law and solve the asset disclosure thing once and for all. If you are late, this is the fine. If you fail to declare, this is the fine. If you don't declare, you can't even sit down in office if you don't declare. Those are things they need to correct. And instead of having the asset disclosure, some at the national legislature, some at the judiciary, and all scattered here, they have one entity to do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Between the Headlines on Focus on Liberia. We are discussing the asset being published by President Joseph Newman Boakai and Vice President Jeremiah Koung. We're coming through it to see. So what lesson can the rest of the people do? What can we do? Because just like you said, when this was published, all people look at say it's published, case closed.
Yes.
Right. So what should be the attitude of the public? Even as we are discussing, coming through these things, we want more participation, but is it that people don't really care? They just want to see that something is published. Do they know what's supposed to be in? How many of us know from this asset declaration that the Senator Koung make $240,000 a year? I mean, what should be the public attitude towards this process?
That is the biggest problem in Liberia. First, you have good section of the people who don't really care. They don't want to know. In Liberia, we say they don't want to know. Then you have another section, maybe they support Unity Party. They also don't care. Once they support Unity Party, anything Unity Party does is correct. So, and you need an active citizenry for the country to get better. You know, like you see what happening in Kenya today, government want to raise taxes. The population said, no, we will not take raising taxes. It better you cut costs, cut government costs. And they continue to demonstrate, and now the government has to back that. If you do that in Liberia, people say, oh, you come to bring war to the Liberia. I mean, you want to bring war in Liberia. Okay? So the Liberian population should understand that all this thing of waiting for God to come down to solve your problem is not going to work. God is not going to come down because, mind you, God is the same God for Boakai and Koung. And he's God for you. He's God for everybody. So he's not going to take side between you and Boakai. So if you decide you need to solve some problem, you need to be active and pursue these things. For example, now you know how much the legislature make. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to advocate for a cut down in their budget? Because it's unreasonable for civil servants to be making maybe $3,000 a year, and for the representative to be making, or the senator to be making $22,000 per month. This is unconscionable. You know, how can you do things like that with our conscience? And now we the same people that can dance and celebrate for these people and fight for them in power.
Now, if you want to join the conversation, the number is on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. I have one caller on the line. Let's bring on that caller. And that is Evan Morris. Evan, you're live.
All right. Thank you, Mr. John. And hello to the panelists. I hope, I mean, I'm sure you saw it, but the fact that our president has no asset in Lo-Fi County is disturbing. You know, I mean, the people of Lo-Fi have put their trust and faith in him for many years, and he hasn't invested in that county. That's a big shame to him. And another thing that I've been harping on for many years, or maybe the last couple of years, our vice president in base salary made over $3 million, or maybe very close to $3 million over the 12 years. It shows his personal financial, capacity. He barely invested some of that money in anything really, tangible that will yield, good fruits. He didn't manage his money well. He has a lot of liabilities, and the property that he's talking about, he has, joint investment of 93,000. I mean, it's abysmal. So when we're looking at the economy, we're looking for people who have the track record on how to handle their own personal finances, let alone an entire nation's finance. And I'm saying this, as somebody who myself, I'm not that great with personal finances, but I'm not running for president. And a lot of people are not. So if you're looking for somebody who's going to lift our nation up, that person should be exemplary when it comes to personal finances. And then maybe we can trust them with our, the economy of our country. But on to the vice president, let me get one more thing on the president. Like the councilor was saying, obviously we can infer that those monies were given by donations or well wishers and so on, but he wasn't transparent in telling the Liberian people where those monies came from. That's why we even made somebody like Noah, Kutolo, very angry that she was asking him for Baga because Baga couldn't kind of defend himself where he got the money, or Yaka questioning where he got that money from, because people who know his history know that he is quote unquote broke, living on loans, but out of a sudden he got $55,000 to donate to the people of Toronto. He didn't explicitly say, oh, I will give it to you for my salary, I will give it to you later on, get it on me now. But he was trying to paint this picture of a humble poor man, but he didn't say that. He was pumping his chest, calling big money that he was going to donate. So the reality is, he either deflated his asset, or that's really what he has. And if that's the case, then it's a shame. It's a shame. That's why we say this was a rescue mission for these people, because he realized that at the twilight of his life, he has to get a nest egg, like he said before, for his children and his grandchildren. And this is his last opportunity, and God gave it to him, so I'm sure he's not going to let it down. And that we just got to book ourselves for it. But under the vice president, He said he's from Sano County. That's his father county. He grew up, he was born in Yoruba, but he didn't go back to his paternal lineage. In your hometown, Mr. Jai, he didn't put any sculpture down. He didn't put any home down there. So they pretty much technically has a ban on that place, and it has pretty much no link or no ties to it. I'm sure maybe, I don't know that about you, but I'm sure maybe your family has something in your town, or you go visit, you can live, either that mother or Zingwa and you'll get something there. But this guy has nothing there. Sometimes you're going there telling the people that he's from there. That he's from the Southeast and that those are his people.
Now the politics of it now.
Yeah, that's the politics. So I think, but this tells us that, Jeremiah Koung has been wealthy, to be fair to him. For some of us who know him or know about him, he did have some rental, storages in Ganta, cold storage. Those things make a lot of money. He had some rental properties in Monrovia. When UN was there, he rented to them. He made a lot of money. He even rented a fueling station where people can keep fuel for airlines. Airplane fuel, that made him a lot of money as well. But obviously, of course, we can see that their salary is exorbitant. And the reality is that he also did a lot of corruption on the ways and means. So obviously, the man is a wealthy man. He probably even underinflated his asset. Well, alleged, yes, but he probably even underinflated his asset.
Thank you.
Because with no other investment that he has. But this is just a little peek into what's going on in the country. A lot of legislators and senators need to be audited and see how much money they're making and what assets they have around the country. But thank you for having the show. We're enjoying the show. I'll be there.
Thank you.
Any other caller?
No, that's all the callers we have.
Okay.
So basically, that's what we got, right? This asset. What's your takeaway, Gabriel, from the?
I think there's one point the caller made that I think I absolutely agree with him in terms of with someone we put in charge of an entire country economy who cannot even manage his own personal balance sheet as an individual, but we put him in charge of a country of 5.3 million people, to manage the country's budget. And I agree with him. And those are some of the things we're supposed to look at, when we want to elect a president. But I don't think the Liberian citizenry is that, thoughtful in terms of what they look for when they look for a presidential candidate. About that, and this is how the whole argument about, living on loan came about. When he made that statement, some of us were saying the same thing. You cannot put somebody in charge of a country who's living on loan, meaning that forget the other time he was in office, but the last 12 years that he was a vice president, he made a significant amount of money. And if he wasn't able to keep some of that, maintain that, put some into investment, and be able to look out for his later years, but he, at this point in his life where he's currently living on loans, it tells you a lot about the individual and how he handles money. And this is exactly what we're seeing in the country right now. Exactly what he does with his personal finances, exactly how he's managing the country's budget as well. And this is why the budget as we speak right now, I don't think it has been passed yet. The revised budget hasn't been passed yet. So that's,
Unfortunately, the budget, they finalized it, and common sense will tell you they were supposed to publish it so that we all can see it and know the final version. Right. They have not yet published the final version, but they are already requesting on the final version and going to Buchanan with 700,000.
Exactly.
That just shows you the kind of leaders we have. What? If you pass the budget, publish the final version. You don't publish the final version, but you already making requests on it. I mean, what is that?
So I agree with you.
The Liberians never get angry. They're always happy. Anything the leaders, do, they are very happy. They're satisfied. So if you continue to be satisfied, these guys will always become millionaires. Why is it we have so many millionaires in our national legislature? People are supposed to go into to maybe science and technology and research and maybe come up with new things and make money. You're supposed to go into business and make money. But we see people like Koung going to the national legislature, sharing the budget to their personal entities, and then becoming millionaires. And we are happy with that.
So what's the future of the rest of the people that have not declared or published their asset? Should we really pay attention? Should they break it out? Something need to change? What's the future?
I think this is the beauty of other people going ahead of you. You can learn from their mistakes and you can learn from their successes as well. And fortunately and unfortunately for those who have not, declared their asset, they can look at those who have declared their asset and the mistake that they've made. And if you're going to publish your asset, make sure you do the right things, in terms of if you have additional forms that you'll itemize assets, make those forms available as well, and make sure the sources of how those assets were valued, you attach it to the declaration form. So if someone like Wonderr or you or anybody is going on those forms, is reading through those, they're able to ascertain in terms of everything, in terms of the value, where you got the value of your asset, whether you got it from the tax assessment from LRA. They're able to understand where you got the value of those assets. That way you're more transparent than the individuals that came before you. So that's the beauty of, of those who have not purchased declared their assets yet. You have that, few examples of those who have declared theirs that you can look at and learn from their mistakes and be able to do better in terms of declaring your assets or their assets as well. So, yeah.
Dennis, the problem here is law is not something people do voluntarily. Law is something that you are compelled to comply with, and if you do not comply with it, there will be penalties. And that's part of the main reason why people comply with law. In other societies, when they have developed to the extent, people comply because, it's part of the culture. But for the most part, people comply with laws because there are penalties attached. But if you look in the code of conduct, there are no prescribed penalties for either late filing, for failing to file, or for lying. And if you look in the LSCC Act, they are telling you that the LSCC, and let me just read it, the LSCC will develop asset declaration guidelines and forms. And then they will recommend to the legislature for enactment of a law for breach of the asset declaration. Now you're writing a law for LSCC. You're already authorizing them. You're not writing the penalty, but you're saying that LSCC must now go back and write new law. It's just the same dishonesty. So these guys sit at the national legislature, people like Koung and PYJ and Nukwe and other people, they take the government money, they allocate it to themselves, they get rich on top of us, and they go and write laws specifically so that they cannot give account. But like I said, unless the citizens take matters into their hand, they're not going to get a resolution anytime soon.
Thank you. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at, new buses came, right? Like 2 samples came, and we are waiting for 298 more to make that 300. Also, we have 285, almost 300 yellow machines. We're going to be discussing tomorrow, what is informing this kind of thing and who really is in charge. What was some of the analysis we made to say, yes, we need 300 buses? And who's supposed to handle it? Is it the executive marshal? Is it MTA? Is it the transport ministry? And all those kind of things. So we're going to be looking at that. And also, what can we learn from what's going on in Kenya? You want to join us tomorrow on Tough Talking Thursday? We're going to be discussing those two. And then on Friday, we're going to be debating the appointment of Councillor Jonathan Masakwe as Executive Director of the Office of War Crimes Court. We have 2 groups of people, some for and some against. There's going to be a debate tomorrow. You don't want to miss it on Friday night debate. And right here, I'll be hosting. Gentlemen, thank you so much for tonight. At this time, within the next 5 minutes, let me get your closing. Start with Ms. Atty. Freeman.
Well, what this asset disclosure says is that LSCC has more work to do. They have to properly define the regulations surrounding the asset disclosure, attach it to the form, maybe make samples, put it on their website so that people can be properly advised. In the case of Boakai, he really has no excuse because he has all the advisors under the sun. So there's no reason for him to, send a misleading information out to the public. On the Koung Declaration, it shows to the Liberian people what is happening. That this senator, this is a man who is making $22,000 per month in Liberia. How much is the average civil servant making? Why is the average civil servant accepting to make 100, 200, and Koung is making $22,000 per month? Also, he told us that his hospital that he received the $1 million for was for the government. Now we realize it's for him. So we need to know what kind of MOU he signed with the government upon which he received a couple $1 million for his hospital, because now the hospital has turned into himself. And obviously it will be a serious conflict of interest for him to have personal property and be sending government money or government budget there. But all in all, when you read an asset or code of conduct law and you put no punishment for violation, you read an LACC law, you put no punishment for violation, and you really expect people to comply. People don't comply with law voluntarily. People are compelled to comply with law because they have punishment. You know, so it's difficult, but I don't see the legislator changing this because they are the prime beneficiary of the spoil system. So what it requires is that Liberian people will have to petition the people. They have to, you know, protest against some of these things. They have to take a stand so that these people don't continue to steal from them, because you can see that it's very difficult for the country if the resource of the country is not being used for the benefit of the country, but they're being used for a few politicians who have power and who can allocate money to themselves and live a better life, and the rest of all remain poor. You know, so I will end on that note.
Thank you, Gabriel. You're closing.
Yeah, there's 3 points I would like to make. The first one is I think something we've talked about here. It doesn't make sense if you are disclosing asset and people cannot verify the values of those assets or the sources of the asset. Now, on the part of LACC, even if we don't have valuation methods in that country for either real property or personal properties, for the sake of this exercise or whatever it is for this declaration, if you're going to tell individuals to disclose or declare their assets, give them at least some sources how they can value those assets, right? If it's a real estate, say we will take the value from LRA, the tax assessed value of the from the LRA. So give them sources that they can go to assess the value of those assets. So when they report it, you can go there and verify the sources of those assets as well. The second thing is, I think Wonderr alluded to this here. He talked about this as well. Yes, we have a law on the book that if you report or deflate or inflate their assets, that's you lying technically on the oath, right? We should be able, or the LACC should be able to prosecute individuals, because if you deflate your assets for tax purposes, because they can look at it and say you have this much, what you're supposed to be paying this much taxes, or if you inflate your assets because you are preempting to be able to steal when you get into power, and that assessment is made and you are caught on the oath, they should be able to persecute individual. Sure, an example. You cannot, there's this thing we have in Liberia where we have every law you can think about, we have it on the books, but nobody follows through it on it. This is a perfect example. The other thing is something that, as I said earlier, we need to be transparent for those who have not declared their asset yet. The beauty is that you have other people who have gone ahead of you, and they have, we're on this show here talking about their mistakes and the things that they did do and they didn't do. You can learn from that and be able to disclose your asset. You don't even need a law to tell you to do the right thing. Just do the right thing and be an example to other people that are looking up to you. So I will leave it on that. I know an attorney has said you have to force people to follow the law. So I guess at some point it has to take place. But I'm just urging for those who have not done that, to be able to be transparent. People are looking up to you if you're in power, and be an example to them and do the right thing. Yeah.
Because now, as we speak, Gabriel, only 15% of all the people who are supposed to declare, only 15% has declared. And the only reason why they have not is because there are no penalties. There are no deadline. Okay, like there is a deadline for filing your taxes with IRS.
Exactly.
And so if you cross the deadline, you're running into problems. Yeah. Okay, and there are penalties for misleading filing, and there are penalties, a whole bunch of penalties that are spelled out in law. Now we wrote our LS or code of conduct law, we didn't put penalties there. Then we wrote the LSCC law. We talk about asset declaration. We also didn't put penalties there. So and they did it on purpose because people like Koung, they were sitting there dividing the government money, and so they didn't want to put penalties there because they knew if they put penalties there, they would be caught. How can a legislature spend $800 million and never be audited?
Thank you. Because only a child will cut a switch for he or she to be whipped, right? Thank you, gentlemen, for the night. I want to thank our viewers for watching. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. If you have never understood the whole asset declaration thing, there you have it. Share the show and let others benefit from this education. Until then, my name is Dennis Jaya, closing on behalf of Focus on Liberia. Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberia.